Hi, welcome to Off Script. I'm Zach Lewis.
And I'm Dr. Draper.
Today on the show, we're taking a look at Jackass Forever. The fourth film and possibly final film in the Jackass franchise is out and about. We went and saw it, and we're excited to talk about it. We're also going to take a look at Netflix's The Lost Daughter. This is Maggie Gyllenhaal's first film as a directorial debut. Got a bit of Oscar buzz this week, so we're excited to tell you what we thought. And speaking of the Oscars, they're out. The Oscar noms are out for the year.
That's right.
Lots of good picks. I know. It's exciting.
There's joy, there's heartbreak, there's scandal, there's controversy.
There's snubs. I got a short list of snubs a mile long. It's not even a short list. It's a long list. And we're going to talk about all of it in the middle of our show. And we need to get to the news as well. But first, really quick, Andy, you did a radio interview today, right?
I did. About an hour after I talked to KRLD News Radio about the Oscar shortlist. About an hour after they were announced.
I think people might think that we're like joking when we say you do like interviews, but like, no, you really do. And they introduce you as a doctor because you are an esteemed professor of cinema. Well, not actually cinema, but right. Thanks, man. How'd it go? Everything good? Everybody good over on KRLD?
Some in-depth questions. It was difficult because I was trying to like gather my thoughts, and there's a lot of information. So you're trying to like think of, surprises, snubs, well-deserved, like who got left off, and like you're trying to juggle, 30, 40 films in your head, like, and answer questions. So
yeah, I mean, you didn't even have time to look up like, Twitter gossip or anything. No. You were on it this morning. Like, you didn't have anybody backing you up on that. You had to go in cold.
So this is my cinema sense working, because I woke up probably about an hour before my alarm was supposed to go off, and I was like, woke up, I immediately thought they're announcing them right now, and I got on, and like they had only announced like 4 or 5 of them, and I was like watching the live stream on Twitter.
Oh my god. There's a live stream on Twitter of the announcements? Cinema-sense then. Okay. Yeah. I was going to say, how did the Oscars don't live stream anything. How did you find live streams of the announcements? Well, that worked out. What time was the interview?
8:30, 8:39.
Oh my god. Yeah. Dude, you really were on it. I was definitely still in bed for that. I realized you could have been in bed for the interview too, but I'd imagine you probably got up. Anyway, thanks for representing the show. Tell those KRLD people that the off-script folks are, happy to have them anytime they want to come over.
That's right.
They can slip us a resume, see if we can get them on our guest list. Our first story this week: a new Scream sequel is a go from Spyglass and Paramount. Scream 6 has officially been greenlit. We're headed back to Woodsboro after the smashing success of Scream 5. Andy, you found this story. What do you know about this?
So Scream, otherwise known as Scream 5, the sequel reboot to the Screams franchise, has made over $100 million globally on about a $40 million budget. So it's a hit, and it's only in its second week or so. So it is continuing to make money, and will probably make a lot more during its run. So it's a certified hit. The fans still love it. There's still life in the series. So we're getting another one in probably about 2 years. Production's supposed to start this summer.
I'm going to be honest. When you initially sent this link over, I mean, you saw what I said. I was not super stoked about this. I don't have the most faith in Scream 6. And I'll tell you why. If you're listening to the show and you didn't hear our review of Scream 5, or maybe you haven't seen it, a lot of Scream 5 works because the script is this kind of meta commentary, as Scream films are prone to do, about the franchise and nostalgia and how long it's been since the last one, and this kind of reboot sequel they're doing. So a lot of Scream 5 works because of the previous films and the time between them. Scream 6 isn't going to have much of that luxury. In fact, it's going to have less of that luxury because it's going to have less returning characters than Scream 5 did. It seems like they're working their way towards some kind of handoff, but like you've pointed out, Andy, a lot of handoff franchises don't actually really ever happen.
Yeah, one of my editorials, which I've never actually written, only talked about, is that there was a time when you would hand off a property, and my example of this is the ill-fated Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, the fourth Indiana Jones film, where it was kind of insinuated that Shia LaBeouf would maybe take up the mantle, take over for Indiana Jones himself.
And then right at the end of the movie, they pluck the hat away from him. No, you're not going to be Indiana Jones.
Right. But there was an insinuation to hand that off the series to someone else. And the problem with all these sequel reboots is they introduce a new cast of characters, and then they just never actually give them the properties. So the new Star Wars trilogy is a perfect example. We get the old cast and the young cast, and we never really just hand things over. You just kind of have both the whole time.
And I think Scream 5, like, it manages to walk that line, right? Because it's not quite as bad as like the Child's Play reboot, but it's not quite as in your face as like the Halloween reboot from David Gordon Green. It's kind of right in the middle, and it works. It manages to carve out its own place, but like kind of uniquely as a oneer. I don't know if they pull it off again. I think the script's going to be really lame because a lot of what Scream 5, the things that worked with the script, the things that didn't work with the characters, and a lot of the suspense. So I'm not super hopeful about this one, but they killed it at the box office, and the next one will probably do really well. So maybe come Scream 7, I'll have some ground to stand on.
It's one of those things that the fans love it. If you're a fan of Scream and the Scream series, you're just gonna keep going back. So and there's a big enough fan base to keep doing it. So who knows what they're gonna do? They'll figure something out, and everyone will go see it.
Yeah, indeed. Well, speaking of going back, one more story before we get to our Oscar noms in the middle of the show. Jackass Forever is killing it at the box office. Well, not really killing it. It made $23.5 million over the opening weekend, but coming off a pandemic, that's pretty good, especially since in a lot of circles, this is closer to a documentary than it is like an actual proper fictional film. Those are pretty good numbers. Certainly better than dumbass Moonfall, right?
Yeah, well, what's particularly impressive is that Jackass Forever was made on a $10 million budget. So they've already, they're already making a profit, and it's going good. That was the first week, and it'll probably continue to earn more during its run. It is way down from Jackass 3D, which debuted to $50 million, but that was over 10 years ago, or about 10 years ago. And the bigger story is that it went up against the $140 million disaster picture Moonfall, which is, by all accounts, really terrible. There's a really great Kermode rant, like a 10-minute rant about how bad this film is.
Oh, really?
It's
great.
It's epic. And that movie only made about 10-12 million for the weekend. So it's losing massive amounts of money. And it joins, Ridley Scott in this era, this cadre of directors that what used to be certified hits are kind of outdated now and costly and losing a whole bunch of money.
God, listen.
That cost more than The Last Duel and made way less money.
Hey, right. I'm never gonna look. Like, we love bold cinema here on the podcast, and in a lot of ways, Jackass is bold cinema. I'm willing to fight that out, and maybe we'll talk about it in our review here in a few minutes. But like, I'm never gonna get mad that a Jackass movie does well. I can't. Like, there's something so childishly sophomoric about it, but I appreciate what's happening there. Obviously that gives some light into how I'm going to feel about the film. But as for Roland Emmerich's Moonfall, I think he's got to learn the same lesson that Ridley Scott and many other big directors are learning. Obviously, it's not the same level as Ridley Scott, but the fact is, audiences are different. After the pandemic, nobody has their finger on the pulse of what will and won't work unless you have some monster franchise behind you and some actual numbers to back up what you're talking about. Nobody can be sure. Audiences are up in the air lately. Everybody's staying at home watching streaming stuff. If your movie comes out in theaters, you better know it's going to work. And God, launching Moonfall next to Jackass was a bad move. We were talking about this weeks ago on this podcast. That's a bad move.
I mean, I think that movie would have done terribly against any against no competition. Like, people would have just stayed home. That's the problem now, is like, it used to be, well, if you just put something in the cinema, like, people will go because they're going to the cinema now, but there's too many at-home options that, there's nothing good I'll just stay home.
Yeah. And I I don't know. Like, it's weird to talk about, right? It feels like a part of how I understand movies is kind of going away, but it's changing, and that's all right, because Jackass Forever is a lot of fun, and it seems like Moonfall maybe isn't so much. So if you haven't seen Moonfall, maybe don't go out of your way. All right, it'll be on streaming services eventually. I'm sure we'll be able to watch it there. And maybe it'll be fun there. It should have played in January. It should have run in like a low pressure month, like when not a lot's going on and people need something to go see. Then maybe Moonfall would have worked, but for the budget, for what they spent on that movie, I mean, it wasn't like 140 million or something, like something crazy. Good God. Jackass is 10 million. Anyway, we should move on to our proper review of Jackass. One more small thing right here, not actually a story I put a banner together for, but I guess it's probably worth mentioning. Box office milestone: Spider-Man has passed up Avatar's original domestic run. I know what this means because I actually read this article, which is why I feel like I should talk about it. Andy, you mind if I dig into this for a minute?
Go ahead.
Yeah, so Spider-Man No Way Home No Way. I'm talking about a Spider-Man movie. I can't remember what the actual subtitle is. Spider-Man No Way Home has now passed Avatar's original run at the US box office. This is not international. Let me be clear, and I'll talk about that in a second. But for now, 8 weeks in, Sony's Spider-Man movie is a tremendous hit, a huge hit. Likely the biggest hit of the year. I don't know if anything does better. I mean, just huge in the US, bar none, doing great.
I mean, it's like the biggest film in the last 2 years, basically.
Yeah, like it's nuts. But what's interesting about this, outside of how much of a dark horse breakaway this seems to be from what we've previously seen at the box office the last couple of years, is, at least to me, it still doesn't hold a candle to Avatar's international run or Avengers Endgame's international run. Avatar made nearly triple what Spider-Man has made internationally. And I know Spider-Man's not quite done at the box office, but it's 8 weeks in. We're coming up on the end of it. I mean, that you're pretty much out. Avatar made $2.64 billion globally. $2.64 billion out of one movie. That is insane. And that's the reason Disney bought the rights to Pandora Land in Animal Kingdom. That's the reason we're getting Avatar 2, 3, 4, and 5, because it made so much money overseas. My God, oodles of cash. I thought I understood it. Then I saw the Spider-Man story and thought, oh my God, like it's not even close. It's not even close how much money they made. For every one Spider-Man ticket sold, they sold 3 tickets to Avatar. I mean, why wouldn't you greenlight a sequel, right? Especially from the director of Titanic and Terminator 2. I mean, I don't know. For some reason, reading Spider-Man pass up Avatar's original domestic run, I feel like that was supposed to be the headline, the hook. And then when you actually dig into the meat, you're like, oh my God, dude, Avatar is a titan. And it's easy to forget because it's kind of the butt of a lot of cultural jokes. But people liked Avatar, man. At least when it came out, it did. International audiences loved it. So maybe a bit of a precursor for Avatar 2, maybe. Anyway, any thoughts on that, Andy? Sorry, I know that was a bit.
No, it's wild that, I mean, because like I said, everyone has been really surprised about, like, everyone knew that Spider-Man would do well, and no one thought it would be this colossal mega hit, like upsetting records. You know, it's now 4th highest grossing film of all time. It's just we knew it would be good. But it was it's really just connected with audiences in a way that no one predicted.
Yeah, and I think seeing like Spider-Man's surprising success to me juxtaposed with like older records of how Avatar did really does bring to light just how much of a monolith Avatar was when it came out. Like, because it seems silly now, right? We're getting 5 Avatar sequels this many years later. Like, who cares? Who's gonna watch that? But man, like if I could hop in a time capsule and go back, it would seem obvious. Like, why wouldn't you have that? You know, and I wonder how much that'll hold. I don't know what kind of cultural value that still has now. Time will tell, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, we should get to our review of Jackass Forever. I'm going to be taking the summary on this one. It's pretty short, pretty easy, so please excuse my clumsy delivery. The movie is Jackass Forever. So, Jackass Forever is the first time the Jackass crew is reunited on screen in 11 years. Last time we saw them was Jackass 3D, a movie full of pranks and gore and guts and grime and all kinds of goofy things that your stupid little friends from MTV would still be doing on screen to make each other laugh. And Jackass Forever is no different, except for the fact that there's some new characters in town. The Jackass crew has returned, and they are older and grayer, but still somehow are managed to bring the laughs in a way that I think a lot of people didn't expect. They bring some new friends in, a lot of new pranks and gags, and ultimately are just trying to get a rise out of each other in the funniest way possible. If you've never seen one, a Jackass movie is fundamentally almost a documentary. It's a group of friends that basically follow. I mean, it really is. Like they follow each other around and they mess with each other and poke fun at each other and hit each other with tasers and shoot each other with beanbag guns and kick each other in the nuts. And one of their friends, director Jeff Tremaine, films it all and cuts it together, and that's basically your movie. It's more complicated than that by now, of course. There's a few scenes that are almost cinematic, as helped with friend of Jackass Spike Jonze, director of Her and a few other wonderful features. So there's some cinema to it for what it is, but really, I mean, it's like watching the MTV show Jackass, except blown up on your screen for 2 hours in a theater. I have seen things on a screen in a theater that I thought I would never see in my whole life. There are moments in this movie where I couldn't look away from what was happening, and there are moments where I couldn't look at the screen because it was so awful. Jackass Forever is probably the hardest I've laughed in a movie in 5 years. I mean, it might be the hardest I continue to laugh at films in a long time. I had so much fun watching this movie. It's so childish, and I love it. Andy, what'd you think of Jackass Forever?
Well, the first thing I want to say is that I saw the first two in theaters, and I remember in the original one, just laughing my head off, just uncontrollable laughter at the stunts, at the craziness, at the pain, the everything about it. It's just super wild. And I didn't know if that formula would still hang up. I would thought, have I matured? Have they matured?
Am I out of touch? Right.
Yeah. Are these gags going to really work this time around? And they overwhelmingly did. Like I laughed more in just the opening 10-minute sequence than I have in most comedies.
It's so disarming, dude. Oh God, I know we can talk about it, but
yeah, but in just that, and the fact is, it still works, and it works because you got these friends, that they're real life friends, and they're close people, and they're just doing these outrageous, dangerous, painful, absurd stunts, and they think about ways to make them funny, ways to make them hurt, and it's hilarious to watch. It's painful to watch. It's a lot of gross out humor, but that also, I mean, it's the magic of cinema, of transferring the feeling that's happened on screen into into the viewer. And yeah, it was hilarious, and it's still got it. It still works. It's amazing to me.
Yeah, Jackass is obviously a very simple formula, right? You get 5 or 6 people who are technically stuntmen, even though they're in no way qualified to be stuntmen. I don't think they didn't go to any kind of school. They're just goofy skaters and former drug addicts who have made a living filming them, hitting each other and smacking each other and pulling pranks on each other and doing awful things to one another, but all in the spirit of having fun and laughing and enjoying each other's company. And that's often painful and can sometimes be even really hard to watch, grimacing even, right? Wincing at the screen. But you find they're having so much fun making themselves the butt of the joke. That's an important part of the Jackass formula. You're not pranking strangers on the street. You are the gag. If you're in Jackass, you are the thing people are laughing at. They have so much fun making each other the butt of the joke and inviting us in the audience along for the ride through Jeff Tremaine's camera, through the direction, and through the editing room, that we get to safely enjoy all of the laughs and all the thrills and chills of Jackass from the comfort of our theater with a bucket of popcorn and a couple of friends. It is a delightful amount of fun, even if oftentimes it's incredibly sophomoric and often difficult to watch. But that's part of what makes it fun, right? It's like a roller coaster. You never really know where Jackass is headed, but you're going to have a fun time getting there. So I want to talk about, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Well, and I think part of what they've done is through the show, the Jackass show that was on MTV 20 years ago, and the films, they've created several formulas or several things that are iconic to Jackass films and series. And it's things like, they have creative names for all the stunts. Scorpion Botox comes to mind. They have several stunts that they have done throughout the course of the series, and that make an appearance here as well. There's the people play different roles. Johnny Knoxville's the ringleader. There's several people that are kind of the group punching bags, and
right.
Steve-O's he's the wild card, wild man out. And the gross out humor as well. And that's part of so they've created trends within their own thing that they do. And they that also kind of gives it a sense of consistency.
Yeah, the way the cast kind of carves themselves out in the show is a big part of what makes it work, because Jackass truly is built on authenticity. Not only in friends being authentic with one another and being honest and being able to laugh and give each other a hard time, but also in their expressions of joy and subsequent pain and anguish when they're in these gags. When Steve-O is screaming because something awful has happened to him, it's so real, and like that's part of what makes it funny. That like it's just such a, you're watching absurdist situations on screen and like a group of idiots laughing at them, and like it's just so goofy to see this in reality. You feel like you're in on the gag, like you're part of the gang. um some of the, and the cast does a great job keeping this all together. Like you said, Knoxville's our ringleader. Long live Johnny Knoxville. And we got a bunch of the old crew returning. If you're watching on Facebook Live with us, you can see some of them on screen right now. We've got Steve-O, Chris Pontius is back, Danger Aaron, Preston Lacey, Jason Weeman Acuna, and what's the other one? Dave England is back. We are suspiciously missing Bam Margera. He's kind of got his own problems. And Ryan Dunn is missing since he passed away in 2005, I want to say. It could be wrong. He has a wonderful little bit at the end, a tribute. But we also get some new characters in, which is a lot of fun. Zach Hollis, another Preston Lacey kind of big guy. A man named Poopies who comes in. A guy named Jasper and his father Dark Shark come in, and a female comedian named Rachel Hollis. And these young kids are so hardcore, dude. I feel like they make the older guys look tame, because the older guys got to take it easy, right? They get concussed and stuff. They do a lot of gnarly stuff in this movie. But good God, like these kids who grew up watching Jackass and have been invited to watch to be in the film, they're so hardcore, dude. Like, good Lord.
Yeah, Rachel Wolfson is the
the
woman, Ellis something.
Was it Rachel?
But
I don't know.
But that's part of what I think where Jackass has kind of updated itself is it's introduced a young and more diverse cast. It's been just primarily a show of white guys, and they've introduced diversity. There's a woman on the squad now. The only downside, or not downside, but these new people don't really have the camaraderie, and they're not really given the chance to really develop themselves in the same way, because that's part of, like I said, so much of why this works is just like the relationships between these guys that have been doing it for 20 years.
Yeah, a Jackass movie is a bit like a road movie because our characters are traveling throughout the country, going to different places, or really the world, going to different places and performing different stunts or pranks or gags. Sometimes they'll be at an alligator pit in, Australia, and in the next scene, the camera will fade to black and fade back up, and they'll be at like some kind of makeshift redneck water park in Florida. Like they will just jump around randomly. So you do have a feeling that you're on a bit of a journey with these guys to make this movie. And that's the bit of it that feels documentary. Often you can see characters standing just off screen, laughing at things. They'll be sitting between takes when a prank is pulled on them, outside. They'll be following COVID restrictions. People with face masks will be walking around. Like, you do have it's a bit of an adventure. It's a bit of a journey, like to jump into a Jackass movie and follow these guys along as they travel the world and make this movie and rib on one another. But it's an incredibly rewarding one. And often you feel as if you are invited in on this kind of fun having. And it's, to me, it like spreads a lot of positivity. Even if some of the pranks are really hardcore, and we should probably talk about it.
Good Lord.
Good God.
So the pranks that they do in these shows are meant to be dangerous, are meant to be painful, and also hilarious. And the thing is, they're always trying to prank each other. Like, they do the official things that they're set up and require, like the camera crew, coordination, whatever, but then they're always trying to get each other. Like, they're always trying to secretly tase each other, or like only tell them about half the prank that's happening. There's a great one called Silence of the Lambs, which they introduce as one joke, and then halfway through it's actually something else, and the participants don't know what's happening. And that's how because part of what they do is get these really raw reactions of like, oh no, this isn't what I thought it was going to be. And that's part of what they do, but like, they're painful, they're really gross, which is something else we can get into. What are your thoughts on these pranks?
No, I feel the same way. Jackass movies are traditionally pretty gnarly to watch, but this one is really rough. Mostly because of the like looking back on the Jackass movies, I've watched them a few times. I feel like I could say handily this one has the most male nudity. Handily. I can't believe this didn't get an NC-17 rating. And I know you said when I mentioned at the time, well, none of it's sexual. I'm like, I know, but dude, I've never seen this much like male nudity in a cinema ever. And in a way, that's progressive. It actually in a really important way. And that's part of what makes this movie certified gold cinema. But regardless, there's also a lot of like really torturous, painful stuff. Because that's a part of Jackass, right? Like not only are you getting a laugh out of Johnny Knoxville tasing Steve-O's getting tased, and there's going to be pain involved in that. So part of the gag is stuff that's going to make you wince. And there's like insects in here. There's spider bites. There's like electric shocks.
Oh man,
there's all kinds of stuff, dude. And like on the one hand, it's funny, but on the other hand, like I was literally wincing in my seat. You know, like it just it's hard to keep that stuff down. And in being able to watch that with your friends in a theater, especially a theater with a bunch of people in it, is likely the best way you can possibly experience those feelings.
Yeah, I mean, there are parts where the camera crew is starting to lose it. Like they're heaving and gagging, and like they're barely keeping it together because of what's happening. And yeah, I wanted to comment on the male nudity as well. You know, so much of Hollywood is about leering at the female body primarily, and sometimes the male body. And this is the antithesis of that, where there is so much full frontal male nudity. God. And it's completely unflattering. You know, it's not any kind of sexual or exploitative. It is because a lot of the gags involve that part of the body, and you see a whole lot of it, and it's so painful, and that's part of the gag, and it's like we're gonna make you look so uncomfortable simply by how much male nudity you have to watch, and then to see it like have pain.
Yeah, it's really something else, and like that makes Jackass a tough thing to recommend to people who maybe have never seen it, especially this one. My God, if you've never seen anything from Jackass and you're like, where do I start? You don't.
No, see, I disagree. It's even better.
Really? Oh, God, no. I'd start him at 1 and walk him through. I think part of it's that legacy, right? Like, because nostalgia is a big part of this one. Like coming back after this much time, Johnny Knoxville has this striking gray hair. The guys look visibly older, and many of the older guys don't do a lot of the stunts anymore. They take it easy. Knoxville has said this time he gets hit by a bull in this movie. The last time he's had 16 concussions in his life, and he's like, I can't anymore. I mean, all of these guys report waking up every day with joint pain, back pain, knee pain. These guys have beat the hell out of themselves for 30 years for everybody's entertainment, which obviously I appreciate. But it makes it, you know, sometimes it can make it tough to watch. So I think the introduction of the new cast stepping in and doing a lot of those gags really does work. Like it doesn't take anything away from it. I'm not frustrated that, oh, well, why isn't Steve-O doing that? No, dude, all the old guys get up to some pretty gnarly stuff. The young guys do too. But for what it's worth, like, I think it comes together into this really full picture that doesn't feel like it takes anything away from what Jackass is. It feels like it adds to what Jackass is.
Right.
That makes any sense. Yeah.
I think one thing that I really appreciate, and that we were kind of talking afterwards, is that there is no like drug or alcohol related stunts or pranks or that kind of humor in this. And part of that has to do with a lot of the guys struggling with substance abuse problems throughout their careers, but also, this was on, I think maybe because it started on TV and you couldn't have had those kinds of pranks on TV, but it would be easy to do that. It would be easy to say, okay, everyone's going to get really drunk and then try to do XYZ. And they don't do that. They are purposely avoiding that kind of low-hanging fruit, for a number of reasons, but it's good that it's, in a way, it's not clean humor, but in a way it is, because it's not like this substance dependent.
Yeah, and that's worth mentioning. Like old Jackass, those guys were definitely hopped up when they were making those movies, for sure. Like many of them were usually and actively using drugs and alcohol when they were making them. Maybe not necessarily on set, but like, I mean, these guys were like punk skaters. They were probably doing that on set behind the scenes. And it's funny watching reviews or watching kind of like interviews with people who have been part of the film, Knoxville and Jeff Tremaine mostly, because they're kind of the ringleaders. Jeff Tremaine behind the camera as the director, and Knoxville as kind of the actual de facto ringleader on screen. They said Jackass 2 was probably the most tonally gnarly of the pranks and stunts, because as Jeff Tremaine said, everybody was ready to die in Jackass 2. Literally the term he used. Everybody was ready to die. He's like, those guys would literally die on camera. if they thought it would make the other guys laugh. Like, they didn't even care. He's like, now, obviously not that way. Very much so not that way. Like, we want everybody to be safe. Obviously, we want to be able to get good footage and like get a good stunt out, but like nobody ever wants to see somebody laying still at the end of a stunt. And you still don't in this movie. And there's a couple times it happens, and it's a bit harrowing because suddenly this kind of engaging form of entertainment, even watching it, comes to a screeching halt. And it's like, oh no, is that person okay? Are they all right? You always want to see your favorite cast members get up and dust themselves off. And Jackass Forever gives you the pleasure of seeing that most of the time, like in the best way. And I think ultimately that's what makes it work. Yes, these guys are not ready to die like they were in Jackass 2. But that really wasn't okay then. And it feels really good now that they're so far on the other side of it. You can see guys like Steve-O doing incredibly well after being really embroiled in addiction, in scandal. Like, you can see these guys doing much better. It's a shame not everybody could join them from the original cast, but you know, they got stuff to work through. And yeah, I'd like somehow Jackass Forever comes out on the other side of 11 years and a pandemic better for it. And you wouldn't think it, but somehow this stuff is still funny. It still works.
Yeah, it's still hilarious. I mean, and I haven't seen one since the second one, so that's maybe 15 years. And yeah, it's still unbelievably funny.
Have you not seen Jackass 3D?
I did not see the third one.
Oh, dude, we should get together on Jackass. Watch Jackass 3 your place. Jackass 3 has some good stuff, like for what it's worth. I think the formal title is Jackass 3D, but you don't actually need a 3D for it. Anyway, I think that about wraps the Jackass Forever review. Any other thoughts or recommendations?
I'm ready.
I'm so glad we got to watch this one. I really am. I'm glad we got to talk about this on the show. Andy, would you recommend Jackass Forever?
Absolutely, with a lot of caveats.
Yeah, lots of caveats. Yeah,
I mean, it is hilarious. It is funny. It is, it's for everyone. It's introducing this young, diverse cast. It is really gross. Some of it, like I said, there's a ton of male nudity. It's not flattering. There's a lot of gross out stunts. People get hurt. They get hospitalized a couple times. So that's kind of what you're in for, but it is just unbelievably funny. I was laughing, gagging along the way with them. And if you're a fan of the series or you watched the show growing up, it's definitely for you.
I'm in the same boat. This movie is a ton of fun. If you're a Jackass fan, you will not be disappointed. Go see Jackass Forever. See it with as many people as you can who are also like-minded and know Jackass and will enjoy watching Jackass Forever. Or maybe somebody who's open-minded and really wants to get into it. And he might be right. It might be a good first feature. But you're not going to want to watch this with your parents. You're not going to want to watch this with really anybody who would think this kind of brand of crude humor wouldn't work, because Jackass Forever, my God, do they push it to 11. Like, it is so crass. Good luck keeping your eyes on screen the whole movie. I couldn't. Like, I would be very impressed to meet the person who could. Jackass Forever.
I think I was the same way. There was times I had to look away.
Yeah, I couldn't. But at the same time, like, I cannot think of a single film I've seen, honestly, in probably a decade, that made me laugh as hard or as long or as many times as this movie did in theaters. It's it's baffling how well it works for me. Like, it's like it taps into like the lizard brain, like in the back of my head, like a caveman, right? I'm just like, I can't help but laugh at this goofy sophomore stuff. It's so physical, it's tangible, it's kinetic. I like Jackass Forever. I think you'll like it too. And with that, we've got bigger things to move on to, more important topics, namely, Andy, you want to cue us in?
It's time for the 2022 Oscar nominations.
Yeah.
So bright and early this morning, the Oscar nominations were announced at 7:30 Central Time. That was 5:30 LA time, Pacific time. They do them super early so that they get them on the East Coast at a decent hour. A lot of upsets, some surprises, some not so surprises, but we're going to talk about them. So the big story is the Power of the Dog came out with 12 nominations. That's massive. Netflix getting something like 27 nominations. Dune was in second place with 10. Those are kind of the big stories. We're going to try to, there's a lot here, so we'll try to go through these quickly. We'll start with Best Picture, which had 10 nominees. Usually you can do as many as 10, but you don't have to. Some years just have 7 or 8, full 10. So, and the list of that is Belfast, Coda, Don't Look Up, Drive My Car, which is a foreign film we're going to talk about from Japan. Dune, King Richard, Licorice Pizza, Nightmare Alley, The Power of the Dog, and West Side Story. So a long list. Zach, what do you think of these?
I think it's interesting. I don't know what I expected to see on the top 10 this year, but there's definitely a few that are a surprise. And a couple of stayovers from the Golden Globes I didn't think would make it. I was talking to Andy just last week who I thought, well, the Golden Globes were small time this year. I think I'd be looking at small time films. Apparently the Oscars feels differently. These are not small time films. They are big deal films. And they're being looked at as such. Best director category goes to Paul Thomas Anderson for Licorice Pizza, Kenneth Branagh for Belfast, Jane Campion for The Power of the Dog, another one. The director of Drive My Car, whose name I probably shouldn't. Thank you.
Ryusuke Hamaguchi.
Yeah, thank you for Drive My Car, and Steven Spielberg for West Side Story. Andy, thoughts on directors?
Not surprised. Jane Campion. I heard a lot of talk about her. Her second nomination, I think the person was for The Piano like 30 years ago.
Which she won in like 1993, I think. Mm-hmm. We studied that movie in school. I remember The Piano.
Kenneth Branagh for Belfast, which I've heard really great things. I have not heard anything aside from the trailer we literally saw over the weekend for Drive My Car. Paul Thomas Anderson, not surprised. I haven't seen Licorice Pizza yet. I think I'm just going to be disappointed by that movie. I'm both surprised and not surprised to see Spielberg on here. Most surprising, though, is that Denis Villeneuve is not on here, despite Dune getting 10 nominations, including Best Picture.
Yeah, it only got double-digit nominations. Why would we give the director a nod? That's silly.
The only excuse that I've heard is that maybe they're waiting for Dune 2, kind of a Lord of the Rings situation, where they'll wait till he's done with the saga, too. So I don't know about that.
That is an excuse. I would call that an excuse first and foremost.
But there are other people that could have been on here. Like Spielberg, he remade a movie almost shot for shot, very similar, nothing really new or inspired. And
yeah,
he's on here because his name is Steven Spielberg.
I mean, it feels like it. I mean, people always say the Oscars are a popularity contest, and like it definitely.
And that movie bombed.
I mean, yeah, I don't want to say it is with The Power of the Dog getting so many noms, but like, look at the success of the Golden Globes. You don't think Academy voters were at least a little swayed by that? Maybe they vote beforehand. I don't know. Maybe that's completely by proxy, but it just seems like, good God, right. The Power of the Dog is the greatest film of the. I mean, by the look of it, it is the best film of the year, and that's surprising to me.
Yeah, it's important to remember that the Oscars are very political. There's lots of agendas running. A lot of it are studios campaign for their films to get nominated, and so that introduces a financial element. The films that have budgets to campaign heavily, if you don't have it, that's why we're going to talk about a lot of films that aren't on these lists at all. But it's not objective by any means. Let's go on to Best Actress.
Let's go on to Best Actress. Jessica Chastain for The Eyes of Tammy Faye, Olivia Colman for The Lost Daughter. We'll be talking about that in just a second. Penelope Cruz for Parallel Mothers, Nicole Kidman for Being the Ricardos, and Kristen Stewart for Spencer. I'm a little surprised by how many of these I haven't seen, and that makes it difficult for me to comment on. I think the only one that really jumps out at me, I heard Nicole Kidman was not that outstanding in Being the Ricardos, so I'm a little surprised to see her on here, but I haven't seen the performance, so I can't really,
The only buzz I've heard is negative buzz about Being the Ricardos. I have heard that Kristen Stewart is very good in Spencer, which I haven't seen. We haven't seen. I've also heard that Jessica Chastain in The Eyes of Tammy Faye. I actually just listened to a review yesterday, and interview that she is very good in that movie. But that movie has not hit anywhere. It hasn't really have a wide release, and I think the movie itself is just kind of middle of the road.
Yeah, I think it's on, I want to say like HBO has it now. Somebody's got it, I think. I saw it the other day. Maybe we'll watch it at some point. I don't know. Best Actor?
So we have Javier Bardem from Being the Ricardos, Benedict Cumberbatch, The Power of the Dog, Andrew Garfield from Tick, Tick, Boom, Will Smith from King Richard, and Denzel Washington in The Tragedy of Macbeth.
I don't know who I'm pulling for here, honestly. I mean, I remember people saying Will Smith was a bit of a winner, but
not anymore.
I don't know. Yeah, I didn't see two of these. I didn't see Being the Ricardos. I didn't see Tick Tick Boom. Power of the Dog's pretty good stuff, and I did low key like Macbeth, but it did not get a lot of love here, so I'm not even sure about that.
I feel like Denzel might be the Denzel Washington might be the front runner because it's him doing Macbeth. I've heard really great things about Andrew Garfield in Tick Tick Boom, which is a film musical about the writer creator of Rent, where he had to learn to sing and perform all the songs himself. And then of course Benedict Cumberbatch just in the 12 nominations for The Power of the Dogs. That's going to be a really difficult category, and I think everyone aside from Will Smith probably deserves that.
All right, I want to hit you with 2 more categories I want to do, and then I think we can move on because a lot of them are,
Sure.
I'm not gonna say they're a wash, but obviously this is a podcast. I want to keep things moving. I'm thinking best cinematography and best animated. I'll take animated if you do cinematography.
All right.
Because I like animated movies. Yeah. Best animated features went for Encanto, Flea, which is a movie I've not seen, Luca, The Mitchells vs. the Machines, and Raya and the Last Dragon. Disney showing up for 3 of these, and I feel like. Am I crazy in thinking they own Mitchells versus the Machines? Didn't they get that with 20th Century Fox or something?
I don't
Maybe
know.
not.
It's
Maybe
on
that's
Netflix.
Studio. I know. I just felt like, I don't know. I feel like I heard something about them owning that or something. But anyway, definitely Disney on here for 3. One I definitely haven't heard of, the Mitchells and Machines. Andy, you got any? I think you know which one is the.
I mean, it's an interesting. Encanto is probably the bigger of all these. Luca, I'm surprised Luca's on here because it went straight to streaming. But I guess that or maybe they released in the theater somewhere one week in LA or. But the Mitchells versus the Machines was fine. That was a lot of fun. Raya and the Last Dragon was fine. It's going to be between Encanto or Luca, I feel, which is between Disney and Disney. So
yeah, if anybody ever tells you that Disney isn't really embracing diversity, show them their 2021 animated feature Oscar noms. Like all 3 of these are like incredibly diverse films. I don't know, it's just something. Cinematography,
right? So we have Dune, Nightmare Alley, The Power of the Dog, The Tragedy of Macbeth, and West Side Story.
Andy, which one of these was the prettiest movie? It's hard to say. It is. That's a solid. It's decent cinematography category. I'm gonna be honest.
This is. I mean, Nightmare Alley looks phenomenal, both in color and black and white. Dune, of course.
Tragedy of Macbeth looked great on a low budget.
West Side Story, as much as it's not original. It did. It is a well-made film.
It does look good. I'll give it that.
Power of the Dog, I can't really remember too much.
If Power of the Dog gets cinematography, I'm gonna be like, really? Like, there's a reason it's on the list. It's worth nominating. But dude, like those other 4 stood out so much more than Dog cinematography to me, at least.
Yeah,
like striking stuff from all of these studios. So I don't know. That's the hot list. Those are the Academy Awards. There's obviously more to look at. You can go to our source here, the Hollywood Reporter, where we found this, to look at our list and what we were getting things off of. But there's a lot out there. Andy, is it worth talking about the Razzies?
Well, I wanted to kind of talk about snubs and things that.
We didn't talk about snubs. What am I thinking? Oh my god, we talk about snubs. Yes, absolutely. What got snubbed?
So we mentioned the big one, Denis Villeneuve not being nominated for Best Director, but some of our favorite films of the year, things like The Green Knight, Nowhere to Be Found, Annette, Baby Annette,
no nominations for Annette, none, baffling. Wes Anderson's The French Dispatch,
right?
Nothing. Paul Schrader's The Card Counter, not seen here, like.
That might be Oscar Isaac's best performance of his career, and it's
on God. And I tell people that, and I think they think I'm kidding, or I haven't seen a lot of Oscar Isaac movies. It may be the best performance he's ever put on film. I really mean that. Like, God, I'm frustrated. I don't see these magical films represented. There's more. I can't even think of them right now, but I know there's more. We were talking about them earlier.
In the best in international film, I fully expect. Well, I wanted to see Titan, the film by Julia Ducournau.
Yep,
that we talked about so much. It's not the kind of film the Oscars want to basically discuss, because a lot of what the Oscars is, it's buzz about Hollywood itself, and you can have challenging films and mysterious films in this, but they don't want things that are just too kind of out there or upsetting, and also not wholesome. And that's, I mean, Titan is about a serial killing kind of transgender woman, and
they can't handle it. It's too bold.
Yeah,
that's all it is. It's too bold.
There's all these cars and machinery, oil metaphors, and it's incredible. But it didn't make the list, and it's not surprising because
I'm so
people are squeamish.
I mean, yes, people are squeamish, but like I also don't think people are flat. And like I look at the Power of the Dog getting 12 noms. I'm like, really? You couldn't throw one at card counter? You couldn't throw a nod at Dispatch? Nothing for a net, not even best song. I mean, come on, that soundtrack is banger. Like there's some really great set design in a net. Like I don't know.
Right. Some other ones that stick out. Nicholas Cage or Pig being completely overlooked, which was surprisingly
Pig. Watch that last week if you haven't heard our review. It's good stuff. Go back and listen.
Ridley Scott getting no love, both no zero nominations for The Last Duel and one technical nomination for House of Gucci. No acting awards for Jared Leto and Lady Gaga.
Nothing for Lady Gaga.
Yeah. So, which is more surprising because I've heard she's very good in that. So yeah, his two big and another thing that Hollywood likes to reward successful films, and so if your film bombed, there's a good chance it's not gonna get a lot of love. And both The Last Duel was a huge bomb. House of Gucci did okay, but he's making films that aren't really connecting with audiences.
Yeah, Power of the Dog seems to be a breakaway as like this year's Roma, which is great for Netflix, and it's pretty clear streaming services are they're exactly where Steven Spielberg didn't want them to be. Spielberg never wanted to have to run against streaming films. He didn't think they were fair. It has to come to the silver screen. He was one of those big advocates. So here he is.
Nothing to do with all your theaters.
And going toe to toe with Spielberg's first musical. We'll see what turns out. Right? People love West Side Story. People like Spielberg. I don't know. The Oscars have a more diverse voting cast than they ever had before. That was a big thing after last year. Like there's a lot of really great picks in here, but at the same time, I still feel like there's a handful that just got left on the cutting room floor. I mean, nothing for the Green Knight, nothing. It kills me.
It's phenomenal.
Anyway, it is phenomenal. We should skip the Razzies because we're running out of time. Maybe we'll come back and talk about them next week.
Yeah.
the Razzies are not a whole lot going on over there, so let's not worry about that. But you know where to go on the internet if you want to find out more. In the meantime, we should get to our final review of the episode. Andy's graciously agreed to take the summary on this one. Andy, please take it away.
The Lost Daughter. So this is the directorial debut of Maggie Gyllenhaal. This is both written and directed by Maggie Gyllenhaal, and it's based on a novel by Elena Ferrante. It follows Olivia Colman, who plays Leda. She is vacationing in Greece. She is a professor of literature. She is kind of an older middle-aged woman, and she's just traveling by herself, just enjoying the beach. A large family comes and joins kind of the resort that she's at. They're a little loud and rambunctious, and they kind of upset the peace. But Olivia Colman, the character Leda, she kind of connects to this woman named Nina, played by Dakota Johnson, who is a struggling young mother. She is, 23, 24, something like that. She has a 4 or 5-year-old daughter who is a challenge, and she is struggling in motherhood. And Olivia Colman, it reminds her of her youth, and we get flashbacks to her growing up with two challenging children. The younger version of her is played by Jessie Buckley, and that's kind of our setup. So it's this family drama, kind of very interpersonal, looking inside. Her thinking back to the difficulty and the struggles and what that means and the decisions she made and whether they were the right things to do, the wrong things to do. At one point, Nina's young daughter gets lost on the beach. Everyone's panicking, everyone's freaking out, trying to find her. And Leda finds her somewhere and eventually takes her back. She's a little bit of a hero, which is helping this kind of conflict they have. And so she develops relationships with this family who we don't really know much about, but they seem a little shady. They might be a little scary. But that's kind of our setup. So it's about a woman's perspective, a mother's perspective about the difficulty and the challenges of being a mother and raising children, and about saying things that you're not supposed to say, or that society tells you can't say about motherhood or being a woman and things like that. So it's a very complicated film. It's very long. It's full 2 hours. Zach, what'd you think?
So upon first shine, I did not like this movie. And fundamentally, I kind of don't. I kind of did not like this. But I saw it get 3 Oscar nominations this morning. And I thought,
Surprise
okay,
nominations.
I can hop on off script and I can speak my mind about how I think this movie is pretty well put together, and as a first directorial debut is actually pretty well done, but ultimately misses the mark. But I watched a couple reviews and I read a couple articles and I thought, okay, there's a more objective way to look at this. So I want to talk about what I think this movie does well and what I think Maggie Gyllenhaal was going for. And then at the end, I'll talk about why I disagree with it. Because I think if I present it objectively as, hey, here's what works about this, here's what this is supposed to be, here's kind of what this experience is, and then here's ultimately why I disagree with the interpretation presented, I think I'd like it more. I think that's easier to swallow for our audience. So let's talk about The Lost Daughter. Where do you want to start? Andy, you're frozen. Okay, that's fine. What are the odds? That hasn't happened in forever. Let me jump in, and maybe Andy will join us shortly. Actually, I realize this could mean that I'm frozen as well, and I don't really know what's going on Facebook. So, let's you and I go check, shall we? Can we do that together? Is that possible? Hold on. Let's get into it. I'm going to show you this. Gonna hide that. Gonna get this out of the way. Let's hit Facebook. Ready? Going on this adventure together. About to get real weird. Hold on to your hats, kids. Gonna make sure that's muted. Hopefully y'all don't see anything whack on my Facebook page. You don't need to see anything going on off script. Do not look. Don't look. Yeah, I guess I gotta hide it. It appears I'm still live. Great. Here's me talking about the show. Can I? Yep, there I am. Great. Well, then we're going to keep going. So, The Lost Daughter. I wonder if he's messaged me. Hold on. Computer cut out, restarting. And he'll be back with us soon. So let's talk about The Lost Daughter. The Lost Daughter is a movie that's about a tone, right? It's about a tone because it's not a very visual story. The Lost Daughter is 90% people just talking on the beach. There's not a lot of action. It's not like I thought looking at it, maybe it was a bit of a thriller. It isn't. There are no thrills. There are a few chills. There is very little action happening in the world of The Lost Daughter. Hey, Andy, you're back. How's it going?
We're back. We're doing all right.
Sorry, I just went to Facebook and checked if we were still live. We are. So I was just telling people that I was just getting into the Lost Daughter not having a lot of action. It's a whole lot of people standing around talking. It's most of the movie.
Yeah, it is that kind of relationship drama of the relationships of people. It's between Leda and the family that she's kind of scuffling with, but also kind of on okay terms. And then her flashing back to different points in her life and her struggle of being a mother.
Yeah, and most of this is presented through 2 settings of time. We're either going to see Olivia Colman in the present at this idyllic Mediterranean villa that she's staying at because she has lived her whole life as a tenured college professor and has the ability to travel the world and go wherever she wants. She clearly doesn't have a problem with money. She's staying at this wonderful place where everything should be idyllic and nice. And then we jump back to her past, where we see young Leda, played by Jessie Buckley, who's like a younger version of her, who's raising her 2 daughters. So we're jumping between present Leda, who's older and alone, and younger Leda, who has a family. And the film starts to address these questions of motherhood and how she feels about it, and really kind of saying the quiet part out loud that maybe a lot of women don't really just fall naturally into motherhood, that it doesn't come naturally for a lot of people. And for some, it's scary, and some don't want to be mothers. And it kind of tries to tackle this question of nature versus nurture. Should you just become a mom and feel like that's your responsibility and it's something you fall into and you find yourself and discover yourself and you become a mom? Or do some women not get that? And they become a mom and go, oh no, I can't stand this, and this is bad for me. And The Lost Daughter chases Olivia Colman as she is a woman who's made decisions in her life that reflect that feeling, that she does not want to be a mom, that it's not for her. And now she's older and she's just kind of wrestling with those decisions she made and where she's ended up now in her life. That's the angle the Lost Daughter kind of brings in, and it tells all of that through basically talking heads. It's not particularly visual. Jumping back and forth between time helps, and being on the beach is nice, but like, yeah, you're not getting action in the Lost Daughter. It's pretty much people talking for 2 hours. That's going to be the structure of your film.
Yeah, and we get the two stories, and they're almost competing for each other. Like, I would have almost rather seen more of the young Leda story with Jessie Buckley. I thought, because that's where, you know, she makes some very kind of selfish and life-altering decisions as a young mom, and what happened there and the fallout from there is I would have liked to kind of see. But we see her struggling with those. Like, she thinks back to what it was like when she was a young mother, reflected by Dakota Johnson's character, and how she was struggling, and how she seems to really regret these decisions that at the time seemed to be the right thing.
Right. Go ahead.
There's an important plot point where the child's doll has gone missing, and they're adamant about trying to get this doll back, and it turns out Leda has taken it and hidden it, and we don't really know why. And the film doesn't really tell us either. This is something for the audience to kind of struggle with and figure out. It's a really interesting kind of plot point that, you know, you're supposed to try and understand or figure out what the psychological thing is going on.
Yeah, it's a film where a protagonist is incredibly flawed, right? Like and in the first hour, you don't really come to understand her, and then as you kind of find out more about her past and get more of these glimpses into who she previously was, like, you start to get that. And really the climax of the film, it feels as if it's building towards some kind of doom or gloom. A lot of the film is color graded very gray. It looks almost overcast, which is not how a Mediterranean vista or villa should look. But everybody in it is a little questionable, and it just feels like almost like a thriller. Like, oh, this is going somewhere, and there's gonna be some kind of climax here. And then you find out, like, the climax is actually something that happened, something that happened in the past, and that adds a new dimension and weight to our characters for the rest of the film. And that gives you much more insight into Olivia Colman's character and who she is and why she acts the way she acts, how she was in the past versus how she is now. And that's pretty effective, I think. And you're right, that plays great against this kind of mirror character that she's found in Dakota Johnson on the beach, this young mom who loses her daughter, and she has to help find her. I think that gives Olivia Colman's character the ability to express herself in the modern, in the present time, in a way that she hasn't been able to prior. That's kind of the vacation. That's the wonder she finds in the Mediterranean on her vacation. But it does make for a long first hour, because for the first hour of this, it's a 2-hour film, and for the first hour, it's pretty much all set up, and that was hard to get through.
Yeah, to me, the film gets more interesting the longer it goes. First act really dragged for me. But once we kind of start having these flashbacks into her past, having more and more of that, and see where kind of these wild and reckless decisions happened and what kind of came about them, it's much more interesting. But it feels too long to me. It needs to lose like 15-20 minutes for sure.
Yeah, and ultimately, like, it's a complex story with some quality drama behind it that turns out to be surprisingly, I don't want to say dark, but it's a thoughtful introspection into how something would be perceived as dark. And I think that's where my interpretation of the movie starts to wander from what it's objectively trying to do. I came away from this feeling much different about the characters than I think the director intended. And based on other reviews I've read, that was a misread by me. But I do want to talk about that, because I think other people might feel the same way. I don't know if you will, Andy, but how did you so let me just, without getting into spoilers, I do want to talk about it. Andy, how did you read our main character? Did you read her as somebody who's kind of thoughtful and nurturing, but maybe a little lost? Did you read her as like a complete stranger out of nowhere who you can't read at all? Because I'll be honest, there were parts of this I read her more like Bradley Cooper's con man in Nightmare Alley than I did like a kind-hearted
Yeah,
soul. And I
she's
think
very
that's
complicated.
completely unintentional. I think that's a bad read by me, but I'm not sure.
She's a very complicated character because like she does nice things, like she finds the lost daughter, the daughter who is lost on the beach, but then she also like takes her favorite toy and hides it for some sort of weird personal, she admits at one point that she's a very selfish person and she has done
She's
very
an
selfish
unnatural mother,
yeah.
unconventional mother. Yeah.
And she's done very selfish things, and she kind of plays both sides. Like there's times where she does the right thing and does the very motherly, nurturing thing, and then there's things where she's incredibly selfish, particularly her younger self and in the past. And kind of, it's almost like she wants to warn Dakota Johnson. Like I think at one point she said, "This is a crushing responsibility," and it just never ends.
God, yeah, it never gets better. It never gets better. Like, and that's not exactly the tone of the film, but like it seems to be a part of her character, and that's where my read came in. I think that you're supposed to feel some kind of sympathy or at least like human connection to this individual. In the original short story that this is adapted from, the entire thing is an inner monologue from the perspective of Olivia Colman's character. The film never once has any kind of inner monologue from her. In fact, it has very little dialogue at all from Olivia Colman. She's very quiet and she keeps all these feelings inside, kind of bubbling under the surface. Our flashbacks are the best we get at any kind of like actual inner thought from her. Otherwise, at least to me, she presents very cold. She presents very uncaring. I do think she's got some emotion under the surface, but they said in interviews, well, we didn't want her, Maggie Gyllenhaal specifically said this, I didn't want her character to seem crazy. She's not crazy. And I was like, that's where I disagree. That's where you missed it for me. I think she's nuts. That was the read I got. So when I get to the end of the movie, I'm like, well, that sucked. And it turns out that is not at all what the director intended. That's not what they're going for here. I just didn't get it. And I'm bummed.
Well, I mean, I think it's specifically, I mean, I think it is a movie that like, you're not going to understand if you're not a woman and a mother. Right. That's definitely who you, and I think part of it's not that she's crazy, is that she is feeling the things a lot of women feel, but aren't allowed to say, or feel they're not allowed to say. Yes. That's a lot of what Maggie Gyllenhaal said in interviews. One thing I wanted to talk about. So this actually got two acting nominations, both Olivia Colman and Jessie Buckley for playing the younger version. And they do have a couple of really, really incredible moments of acting, and so those are well deserved and a little surprising as well. But yeah, I think it does have some problems, the film overall.
So a bit of trivia about those performances actually that make their nomination particularly interesting. Jessie Buckley and Olivia Colman are playing the same character in this film, but Jessie Buckley and Olivia Colman have different accents. And they look pretty close. I actually think Jessie Buckley's a decent fit for a young Olivia Colman. It actually works pretty well. But they are different characters. They act almost differently of each other, almost independently, to represent this like world apart, right? That they've been through, this time that they obviously can't share. Jessie Buckley is young Leda. Olivia Colman is old Leda. But what's interesting is these two actresses not only didn't interact on the set, they didn't watch each other's performances. They didn't practice in the same room. They both went in with completely different interpretations of the same character, and both of them are getting nominated for Academy Awards for it. That's interesting. And I don't know what that means. I don't know how they got there, but both of these women are incredibly talented. Dakota Johnson as well. And I'm going to be honest, like watching The Last Daughter, it's hard to deny that what they're doing is very good. I didn't get the emotion that came from it. And I think Andy's exactly right. I'm a dude. I in no way could understand the struggles of being a mother and maternity. Like in the same breath, I in no way can understand the struggles of being a daughter and being raised by a mother. Like I completely miss that. And that's a whole part of this movie, this kind of cyclical interpretation of mother and daughter and who is really the lost daughter in the title. That's up for debate. And I missed it. And I felt like this character came off as unkind. I felt like she came off as mean and unassuming. And I have a hard time disconnecting from that, because when the lights go up and the movie's over, the feeling you're left with is usually the feeling you carry with you when you talk about it. And that's how I felt about The Lost Daughter. I felt like, miss. and then it got 3 Oscar noms. So like, I don't know, man. It didn't do it for me, but there is something happening here, and it's gotten really good reviews. So I think The Lost Daughter might be worth watching, but it didn't land for me personally.
Mm-hmm.
That's the deal, and I think that's the cleanest way I can say that without expressing how I felt when I finished watching it 24 hours ago, which was, my God, what trash. So
Oh God.
I'm glad I've taken the time to step away from The Lost Daughter and get my head together. There's a reason this movie's nominated for Academy Awards. It didn't quite speak to me, but it's here. Any other thoughts or recommendations?
I think I'm ready.
I think we've been obscure enough talking about this. Andy, would you recommend Netflix's The Lost Daughter?
I wouldn't recommend it to some people. Like I really want to get like I want some of my female friends to see this, and I would like to get their perspective and insight. But I probably wouldn't recommend this to most people. It's just so slow. It's such a drag, and it's long. It's a full 2 hours. Like, you get to Act 3 and you got 45 minutes left, and you're like, what could possibly be going on? Nothing has happened on this beach or at this resort. So it's very long. It's very slow. I feel like it could lose 15, 20 minutes to be a lot more palatable. But it's one of those films that it's more fun to discuss after the fact than it is to watch it. Like, you got to get yourself through it. It's, again, Power of the Dog is a little bit that way. Phantom Thread is that way. You got to power through it. But once you do, then there's a lot to talk about, a lot to discuss. There's a lot going on. It's a bit of a chore to get through.
It is. And I think The Lost Daughter it's a character drama where ultimately I came away feeling completely different about the characters than I think I was supposed to. But in a way, like, I think that's not all movies can do that, right? Like, it's rare that you can watch a movie and I can watch a movie and we come away feeling like we watched two different films. There's something unique happening here. There's something going on in Lost Daughter, and it's not for me, but I feel like there's an audience out there who it's like just perfectly, like just like laser sight aimed on, and I'm not sure who that is. I don't know who I'd recommend this to. It's definitely bold cinema. You're gonna need some patience. That first hour is a grind. That first hour is a grind in The Lost Daughter.
Yeah,
much like Jane Campion's Power of the Dog also.
I had to watch it with plenty of breaks.
Yeah, like it's a struggle, but I think something's happening here. There's some good performances in it. Go check out The Lost Daughter. And with that, we should wrap the show. Andy, we're in a weird spot. We don't really know what exactly we're watching next week, but we do a movie podcast, so we're going to watch something. What are you thinking?
Well, the big theater release is Death on the Nile, which comes out February 11th, and that is theaters only. Good luck going against the Super Bowl. But we'll see. That, of course, stars Gal Gadot, Cannibal Army Hammer, and more.
Yeah. God. Anti-vaxxer Letitia Wright. It's going to be killer.
Big cast. I have heard positive reviews. This was supposed to come out a year and a half ago, and it's been delayed a lot, partially because of COVID, partially because of Army the Cannibal.
Okay, really quick. I don't mean to, obviously, we're not a rumors and gossip show, but Andy, I read an article last week about the Army Hammer Cannibal thing. Did you read into that at all?
I read a little bit of it.
There are like the man's curious.
The man's
confirmed reports. Yeah, like confirmed reports from multiple women and partners over the years of messages. Like, dude, Army Hammer's into some gnarly stuff, which is fine. Everybody's got kink. But like, not only do I feel bad that it's out there, but clearly his seem to be harmful, and that's bad, dude. Like, so Army Hammer, I don't know what that means for Death on the Nile, but it's gonna be weird watching him in it, I think. Just because, weird juju, weird energy. But excited to see it, and I don't know what else we're gonna watch.
Yeah, there's a bunch of now that the Oscar nominations are out, we'll look for something from there. If any of it will be on streaming, we'll try and catch it there, and we'll see.
We'll see. I have personal I should say on the show, it may not work. I have a fear it won't work. I have personal aspirations to go see Drive My Car. It's screening in town this next week. As far as I know, it's at one theater, and they have 5 shows over 5 days. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I'm going to try to catch one. I didn't know before we started recording, or I found out just before we started recording, Drive My Car is 3 hours long, 2 hours, 59 minutes. So I'm now even skeptical if I'll end up catching it in the theater. I want to watch it for sure, but like, dude, that's a lot of movie. That's a lot of movie. So we'll see. We'll see if I end up watching it. But if you enjoyed the show today, if you enjoyed watching our show, you're talking about our movies and maybe want to hear more, you can follow us at offscriptfilmreview.com. We're on Facebook where we live stream the show every Tuesday. We're on YouTube where we upload our live streams shortly after the episodes are done. We're on Twitter. We're on Instagram. You can follow us on all those normal social media channels. You can also follow the show on iTunes. You can subscribe so you can get brand new episodes delivered straight to your phone. That's audio only, of course. If you want the video, Facebook or YouTube, that's where we're at. You can check out our website, you can check out our website, offscriptfromtheview.com. Got it. You can email us at mail@offscriptfromtheview.com. Send us some correspondence, what you think of the movies we're watching. Maybe any thoughts on these Oscar noms? Snubs, maybe? You got to have snubs. You probably just tag us on Twitter, honestly. We'll talk about some snubs over there. But yeah, that's off script. That's what we got going on this week. It's what we got going on every week. Movies are expensive. Podcasts are cheap. Subscribe to Off Script. That's the way to go. From all of us at Off Script, the home of bold cinema, I'm Zach Lewis.
And I'm Dr. Draper.
Thanks for watching.